We have to start with Superman himself, who was indirectly inspired by the writings of Nietzsche and the concept of the Overman. Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster first created Superman as a bad guy for a 1933 short story, The Reign of the Superman. He was a highly evolved human with telepathic powers who despised the inferior men that surrounded him and defined his era. His bald head and teeth even gave him the appearance of a villain. When the creators decided to use the character again in Action Comics 1, they made him a good guy. And a good guy is what he became and how we know him today. Black Adam is a supervillain and sometimes anti-hero, originally created as the evil counterpart to Captain Marvel, now known as Shazam. Black Adam is really the first proper evil Superman since he originated in the 40s, and he really fits the trope but rarely gets mentioned. Captain Marvel was himself a copy of Superman, so his evil counterpart, Black Adam, could easily be called an evil Superman. He was an ancient Egyptian prince who was given incredible powers by the wizard and survived into the modern era. His legacy would eventually expand to include the Black Marvel family, involving his wife Isis and her brother Osiris, protecting their native land of Kondak. Black Adam was originally depicted as a supervillain and the first ancient magical champion.
What gives you the right, Adam?
The power of 6 gods.
He was succeeded by Captain Marvel. Black Adam fought his way to modern times to challenge Captain Marvel and his Marvel family associates. Bizarro is a supervillain anti-hero appearing in DC Comics. Although this is one of the most obvious and early versions of Evil Superman, it is also one of my favorites. I loved the Super Friends cartoon when I was a kid, and Bizarro was a standout with the backward S on his chest. I thought the concept was so clever and so cool. He is still a lot of fun whenever he appears. The character was created as a mirror image of Superman and first appeared in Superboy number 68 in 1958. Debuting in the Silver Age of comic books, the character has also been portrayed as an antagonist to Superman, though on occasion he also takes on the anti-hero role, and he talks quite funny.
Bizarro from Bizarro World, where everything's backwards. Losing is winning. Help Bizarro win. Don't vote Bizarro.
Paid for by the people not supporting, therefore in support of Bizarro.
General Zod is a supervillain appearing in DC Comics, commonly known as a perfect adversary to the superhero Superman. The character first appeared in Adventure Comics number 283, and as a Kryptonian, he exhibits the same powers and abilities as Superman, and is consequently viewed as one of his greatest enemies alongside Lex Luthor, Darkseid, and Brainiac. He is also well known for his famous catchphrase, "Kneel before Zod." Originally depicted as bald and clean-shaven, Zod's look in popular culture was defined by Terrence Stamp in the film Superman in 1978 and Superman 2 in 1981. Eventually, the character was reintroduced to the DC multiverse with black hair and a goatee beard. A different incarnation of Zod was portrayed by Michael Shannon in the DC Extended Universe films Man of Steel in 2013 and The Flash in 2023. Zod is a megalomaniac Kryptonian in charge of the military forces on Krypton. He knows Jor-El, Superman's father, when Jor-El is an aspiring scientist. When the space program is abolished, Zod attempts to take over Krypton using an army of robot duplicates of himself, all bearing a resemblance to Bizarro. Kind of interesting, right? He is sentenced to exile in the Phantom Zone for 40 years for his crimes. Zod is eventually released by Superman when his term of imprisonment is up. However, he attempts to conquer Earth with the superpowers that his Kryptonian body acquires under the Yellow Sun, the same source of Superman's superpowers. With Zod's intentions becoming obvious, Superman is forced to oppose him and ultimately return him to the Zone. Doomsday is a supervillain appearing in DC Comics, commonly as one of Superman's deadliest foes, as well as a major adversary of the Justice League. Doomsday had a cameo appearance in Superman, the Man of Steel number 17 in November 1992, and made his first full appearance in Superman, the Man of Steel number 18, December 1992. Doomsday is often ranked as a top 100 comic book villain of all time. He is best known as the character that killed Superman in the Death of Superman story arc, Doomsday. He appears in the film Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. Doomsday was conceived during an annual brainstorming session with the editors and writers of Superman comics in response to a concern by some writers that most of Superman's foes either relied on technology or their intellect to outmaneuver Superman. They wanted to create a new foe with great physical power to match Superman. Several writers proposed having Superman die at the hands of a bestial foe. The editors scribbled this idea on the wall chart as Doomsday for Superman. Inspired by the scribblings, they chose Doomsday as the name for this villain. Doomsday is depicted as a monstrous, genetically engineered being from the depths of prehistoric Krypton. His creator imbued him with few feelings, mostly hate and desire for destruction, which led to his destroying worlds and eventually finding Earth, where he meets Superman. The character is best known as Superman's murderer. How is that for a title? Omni-Man is the father of Invincible and a member of the Viltrumite race, a humanoid species of extraterrestrial origin who possess immense powers. He works as a superhero on Earth. As is customary for males of his species, Omni-Man sports a large mustache, which is quite famous. This origin story is very similar to Superman, but there is a major twist. He is more like General Zod and shares similar intentions. He has the opposite intentions of a Superman. In Invincible issue 7, Omni-Man lures Earth's premier superhero team, the Guardians of the Globe, to their hideout in Utah, where he brutally murders all the members. Omni-Man reveals that he was sent to Earth as a conqueror for the Viltrum Empire, a revelation that was in marked contrast to his previous claims that his presence was to advance human technology and protect the Earth from extraterrestrial dangers. Instead of being a Superman father figure like Jor-El, he's actually more like General Zod, who we earlier mentioned on this list. In Invincible, Omni-Man arrived on Earth in the 1980s, where he eventually adopted the street identity of a best-selling author named Nolan Grayson. He married Debbie, whose life he had saved, and they had a son together named Mark Grayson, who becomes Invincible. In a confrontation shortly after Mark realizes his powers, Omni-Man beats Mark to within an inch of his life. Yet he refuses to kill him before he flees the planet. Superman Red Sun is an Elseworlds comic published in 2003, which means it is out of continuity. It tells the story of what would have happened if Superman had landed in the Soviet Union instead of America. A very cool idea. The story mixes alternate versions of DC superheroes with alternate reality versions of real political figures such as Joseph Stalin and John F. Kennedy. The series spans approximately 1953 to 2001. In Red Sun, Superman's rocket ship lands on a Ukrainian collective farm rather than in Kansas. As an adult, he becomes a state-sponsored superhero whose civilian identity is kept a state secret and who is in Soviet radio broadcasts. He is described not as fighting for truth, justice, and the American way, but as the champion of the common worker who fights a never-ending battle for Stalin, socialism, and the international expansion of the Warsaw Pact. Is this an evil Superman? Does it belong on the list? I mean, Bernie Sanders might be sympathetic to this idea. Some might consider the premise an improvement. A socialist Superman might not be evil at all, but a correction. Is the author Mark Millar promoting Marxism? Is it a commentary on social justice? It's really basically none of these things. First and foremost, it's a really entertaining idea. It's not so black and white, and it gets a lot more interesting, especially when alternate versions of Batman and Wonder Woman arrive. My head was spinning. I thought this was a fantastic idea, and I know many have this on their top 10 Superman stories. Let me know in the comments below your thoughts on Red Sun. The next two are the reasons that most people talk about the Evil Superman trope. One is a widely successful TV show, and the second one is more popular amongst comic book fans and gamers. First, let's talk about the Homelander, John Gilman, is a character and one of the main antagonists of the comic book series The Boys, and also of the media franchise of the same name. The character is depicted as an egotistical and sadistic narcissist who serves as the extremely powerful leader of the Seven, a group of corrupt and hedonistic superheroes. It's like a twisted version of the Justice League. The group is funded by Vought American, and they act like celebrity athletes with agents and public relations teams. Beneath his public image as a noble and altruistic hero, the Homelander cares little about the well-being of those he professes to protect. This character, more than any other, has popularized the Evil Superman trope to the masses in the modern era. The spin of having superheroes living in our actual world and dealing with social media, product sponsorship, and movie deals is a fresh one and at least 2 steps up from Civil War and the idea of monitoring superheroes. The TV show actually improves the comic book and makes Homelander thrilling to watch. I would argue that the Evil Superman trope, when done right, when done like this in The Boys, is a natural progression for superhero stories, and it's endlessly entertaining to watch. The next one might have set off the whole Evil Superman trope in the modern era. Let's talk about Superman, birth name Kal-El and adopted name Clark Kent, is the brutal High Counselor, leader of the regime. He was originally Earth's premier superhero, but the death of his beloved wife Lois Lane, his unborn child, and the destruction of Metropolis at his own hands, unintentionally, caused him to become a supervillain.
This world needs me.
I won't bow to the new regime.
I'm disappointed.
And subjugate those he once swore to protect under the guise of protection and stopping evil. This is another Elseworld story, which means it's out of continuity. The ends justify the means in this world. This Evil Superman is like a Breaking Bad Superman, a man who begins to justify his actions in a twisted logic based on mob morality or street justice. Might makes right, and if I can get away with it, and if it's good, if it's for a good cause, then so be it. This Superman feels he is making the world a better place. It's Crime and Punishment, or Death Note, inserted into a Superman story. Instead of the collective justice of a Christian society or Western court system, this Superman reverts to pre-Christian mob justice, which relies on force and swift punishment. It is extremely entertaining and lends itself to great underlying themes. It's also a great way for various superheroes to choose sides and fight against one another in a battle royale.
We've raced many times, Barry.
Always ended in a tie, didn't we?
There won't be any ties today.
It's a ton of fun, don't miss that one. The movie Brightburn rounds off the list, coming out in 2019 and calling itself a superhero horror film. Although the movie didn't kill at the box office or receive great reviews, it seems everyone has seen this movie, and it often gets mentioned in lots of Superman conversations. The movie has no affiliation to Superman or the comics. but it liberally takes and subverts the Superman origin story. It starts out like a coming-of-age story, but doesn't provide anyone to root for, then emerges and transforms into a horror film. The original Superman origin story is based on the Bible story of baby Moses. He is sent down the Nile in a basket and grows up to be a prophet. In the comics, Superman is sent into outer space, growing up to be a powerful leader and inspiration to Earth. Brightburn subverts this story and has a serial killer / sociopath in that basket, sent out into space and arriving in Kansas, later growing up to kill his neighbors, fellow students, and teachers. For the climax, he kills his adopting parents. This is borderline bad taste. The Smallville-like setting makes it more unsettling. It turns into a grindhouse horror film where we are waiting for the next brutal kill. This is an odd one. I'm not sure if this was an original idea that went wrong, or if this was just a bad idea from the get-go. I included it here because it is the most recent and the most on-the-nose example of an evil Superman. That he is a boy, or Superboy, and that we are set in a type of Smallville setting makes it really demented. Or interesting, depending on your taste, depending on your perspective. Your mileage may vary with this one. Let me know what you think in the comments below.